Afraid to ask tough questions. She's not afraid to speak her mind. You've read her column. Maybe you're a fan on Facebook.
No topic is off limits. Straight to the point.
There's no chaser. You're now watching Straight Talk with Carla Zuill.
Welcome to another edition of Straight Talk. I'm your host, Carla Zuill. Now, today we're going to be discussing relationships. We all like to have them, but not all the time they work as we would like them to be. So, with us in studio today, we have Mrs. Saadia Bean from the Family Intimacy Center. Welcome, Mrs. Bean. How are you today?
Oh, I'm great today. Thank you for having me today, Carla.
It's a pleasure. Now, let's talk about the Family Intimacy Center. How long has it been in existence?
14 years. My husband and I opened the Family Intimacy Center 14 years ago, 2000.
And where did the need for the center come from? Did you find that Bermudians needed to have a place like this?
Well, you know, I started off as a teacher in 1977, and just in talking with people and being with people, and then moving from there and getting other training and certifications, then I was able to work at the Women's Resource Center and Parents and the Institute for Child and Family Health and other agencies. And as also one time being president of Bermuda Counselors Association and so on. So I had a wide berth of what it was looking like in Bermuda, and realizing that I wanted something unique, something where I could take my time to actually be with people and see where they are and use where they are as the building blocks for their lives. So if I could do it, I thought, all by myself, without being attached to a particular agency, then I just wanted to see what it would evolve to, and really specifically meet the needs of people in the way that my heart was calling it to be done, and where they would really get their needs met.
Do you cater to mostly couples, or do you do mostly individuals?
Both and both, yes. Just couples, individuals, married, premarital, people going through divorce, and or just having had a divorce, mediation, just a variety of needs being met through counseling.
Now let's discuss trends. Have you seen, back then when you started your center, what would you think, or what was the number one issue affecting people?
You know, Carla, people usually come in and they say their number one is communication. That's what most people present with. And so though communication is an important piece of relationships, the main thing is that you want to know how to communicate with yourself. What is yourself telling yourself? And if we could get that firmly in place by people knowing actually who they are and knowing what their wants are rather than what they don't want, because we often focus on what we don't want and we talk about it so much it just gets bigger and bigger. So if we begin to focus on who we are, how we feel, and how to actually use those feelings wisely, like every feeling is important. How do you use all of your feelings wisely so that you get to where you want to go? And if each person is doing that, starting off with who they are as a celebration, knowing what they want and how they feel, how to use those emotions wisely, then it takes care of all of the challenges that come up, every single one.
But why is it that people can communicate effectively with their coworkers, their friends, but yet find it so difficult when it comes to their loved one?
How awesome. A wonderful question, and I've had to answer that over the years, like, what's this all about? And what I realize is that at work, we're required to fulfill that as a role in what we do. At home, we get to be who we really are. And that takes knowing who we really are. And we want to relate intimately. What would that look like from the intimacy of my heart to yours is what we're doing at home. Very different from being on work, at work with your colleagues. Totally different relationships.
Now, have you seen a change in trends now in 2014?
Well, I think that, I don't know if it's a trend or if it is the way that I do what I do, but the crux of it all is people are just really accessing, for me, the power of who they really are. Because in life, it's really the same old thing that comes up. Something comes up, but it's really how I'm responding every time something comes up. So one of the questions that most people are asking when they come in is, who am I? I don't even know who I am. And then that's a really great place to begin, because the main ingredient everywhere we go is ourselves.
Now, I know there's no set fix for everyone, has a different ideal, etc. But how do you help people to find out who they are?
Who we all are, I believe, is essentially the same. Like the best of who we really are, the grandest version of who we really are, the unique beauty of who we really are is where we go to the definition of ourselves. So if we were to describe ourselves at the best description of who we see ourselves to be, what would that be like? And most people eventually get it. At first, people might say, well, I'm a mother, or I'm a father, I'm a teacher, or whatever it is. And then we get to understand, well, that's really what you do. We're not human doings, we're human beings. As a human being, what is the description of that? And then we come up with, generally speaking, some words like, well, I'm really kind, and I'm caring, and I'm determined, and I'm disciplined. And all of these words that people begin to describe as who they really are. And from that as a home base, you take that to solve anything that comes up.
And when we return, we'll talk to Ms. Bean about whether or not unmarried couples should receive counseling. And I'll turn back. And we're back. Before the break, I asked Mrs. Bean whether or not unmarried couples should do counseling. Now, some people have the mindset, Mrs. Bean, that only married couples should do it, boyfriend and girlfriend shouldn't. What is your opinion?
I have the privilege of engaging in so many premarital counseling sessions with those who are engaged. Some who have a date set and some who don't. Some who come and say, we'll be married in a month or 6 weeks, and some who say a year, and some who don't have the date set at all. And it's really wonderfully amazing to be able to clear up some of the past voices in the head that we all go into marriage with. You know, I've been married, my husband and I have been married for 36 years, and it's been an awesome journey of clearing house and creating what we want. So if we can know what some of the clearing house could look like and experience that before, some of those past voices that kind of plague us. And of course the other thing is that we have less what we might call, some people call baggage, if it's premarital. In marriage, there's so many events that have taken place that it's a different kind of journey to clear that. But premaritally, you're just kind of googly-eyed and in love. So it's a little easier sometimes, not all the time, sometimes to absorb the principles and walk in who you really are as a celebration, because you're just in a celebratory spot all by itself. So it's wonderful.
Now, I understand with engaged couples, but what about someone or a couple who are simply boyfriend and girlfriend, maybe for 2 years, 3 years?
Yes.
Some people say, well, it makes no sense to go counseling, just move on. What do you think?
Yes, all at any stage of the relationship, it's advantageous to engage in counseling. What we are actually focusing on is all relationships are opportunities to create, demonstrate, and experience and express who I really am. That's what relationships are for. I get to know me, I get to be me, I get to celebrate me, I get to maybe perfect me. Not like anybody else's perfection. And so at any stage of the relationship that a person may be in, it would be appropriate to look inside because, again, we are the main ingredient that we're taking to the relationship. We get to shape it and to create it whichever way we want to. So this is, again, equipping of self. Not to see what's wrong at all. People have a lot of stories about what isn't going well. And I don't focus on the stories that are not going well.
Now, what is love to you?
Love is an opportunity to demonstrate and enjoy principles that make life work from the expression of my true self. And so sometimes that feels good and sometimes it doesn't. So maybe we can separate out love such that there's a difference between the action of love and the feelings that love generates. So sometimes it feels all dancy and lovely. And sometimes you have to really go in to be who you really are and know who that person is and engage in the action of love even when it doesn't feel so good.
Now, should love always be expressed or should love be in action? Because some people think they'd rather hear it, where other people say, well, I always show it.
Love, Carla, I believe, is the one word that defines everybody. If I were to define me and define you and anybody, it would be I am love, you are love, so be it. And so how do we be it? How do we engage in knowing that love is being activated so it's in flow of giving and receiving, giving and receiving? And that's one of the highlights that I really pull out and teach people. How do you know specifically how to activate that so that you experience the flow, that you create the flow, that you maintain the flow, is sustainable, and that when it isn't and you feel like it's not working here for this moment or these months or whatever time frame, how do I get back in the game? I'm calling a game like play, really. How do I get back in there so that I know what I'm actually manipulating? And I don't mean manipulating in a negative sense, but what am I doing that could action that out? Because I feel it, because that's who I am. So I am love by definition. I feel love by definition, and I give and receive love as an action.
Should love hurt?
There are experiences that we have in relationships where we will experience hurt. Yes, because we're all different. I think the hurt becomes intensified because the further away we move from activating love and experiencing who we really are, we form habits of protection. And so we're no longer working the principles that will take us where we need to go. And the distance that we get away from ourselves intensifies the hurt. So it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And the opportunity that I have is to be with people so that they are able to then really see what love looks like, is actioned out, and experience the demonstration of themselves, so that while this event feels hurtful, the event is not me and the event is not you. So let's get back in so that we can begin the exchange again while we process the event and navigate through it without parking in there. Don't park in the story.
Now, for couples, not all the time, both couples are open to counseling. And I know sometimes you have situations where just one will attend and not. What does that do to a relationship if one partner is willing to work at it and the other one doesn't seem so open to doing so?
Most definitely, it has great potential to elevate the relationship, because when a person knows that they don't need somebody to do something a certain way, the way they see it, in order for them to, again, experience and demonstrate themselves, and that where it's not working is really a difference of maybe opinion, their differences, and they can take the wholeness of who they are and know how to activate that every day just for the joy of themselves. It really elevates the relationship and takes the heavy off the other person, the other partner, so that you're showing up differently. And the tension that was created begins to ease. And it actually just activates the awesomeness of the other person too, because they feel more relaxed to be who they really are. So it really changes the dynamics of a relationship. And if it doesn't, because there's no guarantee, because we can't control other people, then we can still move into who we want to be, whether in the relationship or not in the relationship.
Now, talking about not in the relationship, at what point should couples or individuals within a couple walk away?
You know, when you get to a point where you know you're really experiencing yourself and you are in the joy of you, no matter what, negativity just cannot survive in your presence. So either the person is going to elevate, or you can calmly, peacefully, and lovingly walk away. And you will know when that comes. You just know.
Really?
Yeah.
And of course, I know it's not one thing for everyone, but what is the difference between unconditional love and stupidity? Because sometimes I think people stay in a relationship with the view of it's going to get better, but then in some situations it just doesn't, and the other person seems to be constantly taking advantage of that person's love. It seems like it's a fine line. Do you see it that way?
Whether or not we know it, every relationship is a journey that a person is taking it's my own personal journey. And so we do whatever we want to do. Nobody is making us do anything. A person never does anything unless they want to do it. And how it looks for them, for the person personally, we will never know. So it looks like a person might be staying beyond their need to stay. Maybe they should walk away, but they know what's at stake for them as they view their own pros and cons, which would look different for another person. The journey into life is healing and elevating, healing and elevating. It's a wonderful joy and a balance. And the more I come into experiencing me like the best of me, I'm able to ascertain whether or not I'm enjoying me in the journey, and I'm staying in my joy, and I'm creating an environment for you to do the same. And again, when you know that that's taking place, negativity changes or you go. And you no longer hold somebody or yourself hostage with needing somebody to be different so I'll be okay. You're already okay. You're already holding complete. And you don't need to complete something from the past that didn't go well, and you're staying here. I'm going to get it right this time. I'm just absolutely going to get it right. You're already right. You're already okay. You're already beautiful.
Okay. And we'll have more from Miss Bean when we return. And we're back. This episode, we've been talking to Mrs. Saadia Bean from the Family Intimacy Center. Now, Mrs. Bean, let's discuss infidelity. Oftentimes we hear it's inevitable, in Bermuda particularly, because the ratio of women is so high to men. We've also heard that they say men are not biologically created to be monogamous. What is your take on that?
Never heard that one. Well, I'm going to go back to the definition of self again, Carla. Who is really this being? We're human beings. Who is this being? What is the definition of the being that we are? We are love. And we just really want to experience that. We want the feeling of it. But the greatest relationship that we have is the relationship we have with ourselves. The greatest relationship that we can have with ourselves is to always show up in a way where we are true to ourselves. And being in one relationship always takes us to a deeper level of ourselves. It's true, and I've heard many people say, it's easier to start a new relationship and then start another one and then start another one, because that's just kind of the surface of how we meet and greet and have a nice time together, and we don't have to get into the depth of what a relationship calls for. And when we are in this one relationship where it's taking us to the next level, deeper into ourselves, it gets a little challenging, because the mind has in itself, it's just an instrument, a tool that has stored in it all of our experiences from zero until now. And we're using those experiences to shape events as they come. So sometimes we kind of get stuck in one of those modes that needs attention, and it shows itself up in the depth of a relationship the longer we're in the relationship. So it needs attention. And if you give it attention, it will be fine. If you don't, it might get so big that over time we might develop a habit of turning to another relationship that gives us the feeling, the good feeling of love again. And so, but we're not built for that multiple relationship like that, unless we decide that's the way we want to live. So it's really, I suppose, getting through the whole idea of it's okay when relationships are not working in this moment, because it's going to lead me into a deeper place in myself, a place of more beauty, of light and joy and peace. And I can do this, I can shape it, and I don't need anything else that would kind of soothe me, so that I need it while this isn't going well.
Now let's talk about conflict resolution. Particularly now during these stressful economic times. How have you found that more couples are coming to you in light of the added stress of the recession and more people losing jobs or being underemployed?
I don't know that there are more coming because of that. I haven't viewed it as that. I think that the stresses of life, no matter what they are, cause us to look to another source like counseling to help us to get through a particular time, whether it be economic time or any other time. It's parenting, it's whatever we might deem to be the problem. And so one of the things that I enjoy sharing with people is, just the whole person is 3 parts. It's mind, body, and soul. We all know about that. And as I was saying earlier, the mind is a tool, is an instrument that has recorded all the data in it from zero until now, the events, the feelings, and all of that. It's recorded in there. And the body is the instrument that carries out the action of what the mind is thinking and how it wants to process and react to this thing. And the soul is the pure part of who we really are. The soul is the kindness, the peace, the joy. So what we want to do, what we usually do, is just use the mind to process, right? We say, the mind says, oh, I experienced this feeling before and I acted like this, so let me act like this again. I acted like this, so let me act like this again. And we continue to repeat the same patterns over and over. But if we take our minds and we access the soul or the beauty or the kindness and the love and the care and the beautiful desires, and we mix them, this is how it was before. Yes, I remember this. But who I am is this. I'm kindness, I'm joy, I'm love, I'm caring. And we mix the two before we react, before we respond, we'll find that conflict wouldn't be so difficult. We'll get through it. So one more important thing, several, but maybe one more.
Sure, it's fine.
Knowing how to use our feelings wisely. In other words, all feelings that we have are important. At the Family Intimacy Center, I divide them into two categories: love-based feelings, fear-based feelings. All the feelings we enjoy, in other words, and all the feelings we call yucky. I don't like to feel like that, negative feelings. Fear-based feelings. And we teach people how to use every single one, all of them that come up, because feelings are not right and they're not wrong. They're important information to let me know if I feel good about this, then something great is happening. Keep going. If I don't feel good about this, that means that there's something that I want instead. Go ahead and say thank you to that negative feeling. It's okay. It gave you that information. Now, start to make the journey into figuring out what it is that you want and how you'll be able to get what you want in a way that would work for more life to all and less to none. The mind and the soul, or the beautiful being that we are, when we mix the two, always can come up with the answer. It never fails. It always does. And in that way, we always get to experience the best of who we really are. And don't worry, sometimes we get into a negative space and it's just going and we can't get out of it. Now we're already angry, and we can't stop being angry. That's okay. It soon will crash.
Right.
And it'll be over and we can start again, just renewing who we really are.
So with that being said, it's inevitable. Couples argue. What is the number one thing? Because some people say you shouldn't go to bed angry at each other. What do you think is the number one, if you could give just one tip, what would you give to couples who, in regards to arguments, never say certain things, for example, or solve it before the night's out or the day's out? What would that one tip be?
We can continue to know beyond the shadow of a doubt that differences will continue to occur because we're different. And the event that we're disturbed about is an event. It's not me, and it's not you. And so we can look at the other person for who they really are, not as an event. Like, you're not an event, you're a person. And so I can, in the celebration of me, in the knowing of who I am, and the awesomeness of who I am, to really be secure in that. It never goes anywhere. And it's the same for you. You're who you are. And so we can talk about this like we have a difference of opinion, but not like you're right and I'm wrong, or I'm wrong and you're right, or vice versa. It's not that. It's we think differently, but we still care. Can we begin to practice the habit? And that's what relationships are for. They are practice sessions all day long, practicing that I am who I am, I'm whole and complete, and I'm equipped with all the goodness of who I am to move through any event where we see things differently, and I can keep myself intact for self-care. I can take care of me because that's what we're doing. and the way that we take care of ourselves is to be loving and kind. And so we put that as the forefront, and it will always help us to solve whatever's going to come up next, even if we have to put it on the back burner for a moment because we're not doing very well with solving it. Okay, it's the event, but it's not us. Let's keep us intact while we move through the events of life.
Okay, Miss Bean, thank you very much for being here today. And there you have it, another edition of Straight Talk. I'm your host, Carla Zuill, and we'll see you next week. If you have a topic you'd like to discuss on Straight Talk, send an email to talk@channel82.bn.
Thanks for watching Straight Talk with Carla Zuill.